Hello, my Panda Pals, and welcome back to another recap. Today we are covering The Other Way, Season 6, Episode 3. This episode had nothing happening in it. It is quite literally everyone is packing up and either getting ready to leave or getting on a plane. So, this one's gonna be pretty short. With that said, sit down, buckle up, and let's go for a ride. Let's start things off with Corona and Ingi. Corona is getting ready to fly out to Iceland.
There is a lot of anticipation on the what ifs and the unknowns, but I think majority, it's just excitement.
But before she does that, she does drop off her kitties with Leo and Christy because they have a ton of tests to go through before they are cleared to be imported.
You're gonna miss me? Okay. She's never been this upset.
I completely forgot that one of her cat's names is Tits, which I think is so funny. I think her cat's names are Tits and Tricks, and I have 0 pets right now, sadly. But whenever the time comes for me to, adopt 1,000,000 dogs, I plan on naming them all after food.
There's no one on earth that I would choose to derail my current plans and take an alternate route to my dreams than Ingi.
Ingi is over in Reykjavik, and he tells us that Reykjavik is a huge party town.
Reykjavik is definitely a party town. Going out is probably the most Icelandic thing that you can do. Love to drink as well.
But it is very tricky to date when you live there because there is a high probability that the person you're trying to stick it in is gonna be related to you.
We have a website to see how related you are. The question is always are you gonna look beforehand or afterwards?
He tells us that he fell in love with Corona because she was sexy and unafraid to express herself. But he is still very nervous since this is gonna be the first time that he's ever going to be living with a partner. Somebody is a nerd. I am totally kidding. I too am a nerd. Quick story time. I am a nerd, but I've never been able to get into D&D. I think it's because I just haven't found the right group of people to play with, but I've tried 3 different times and they all have not been great. The first time was when I was 22, and it was me, my roommates, and one of my roommates' girlfriends who was so annoying at the time. We started playing around 6 p.m. It was now 11:30 at night. We had all been drinking. We have work the next day, and our party enters a cave, and inside a bunch of sleeping goblins, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is a really great place to pause. Let's dip out and pick this up next week. But this girl, who is drunk as a skunk, is I want to throw a bomb at them. Yeah, I want to wake them all up. Let's just stir some shit up. And I'm bitch, could we not? We have been playing this game for 5-6 hours. We are tired. Can you shut the f up? Ingi is playing with his friends, and his friends are very skeptical about his relationship with Corona because A, they have not known each other for a very long time, B, things are moving incredibly quickly, and C, they have not met anyone that Ingi has dated previously, so to them, they really don't think that it's possible for him to be super serious about anyone.
Stór breyting, get ég sagt þér.
Já.
Komið bara farin að búa með einhverjum öðrum.
Ég fram á mikla breytingar nema bara minnkandi jammið, sko.
Abbo, þú sett komin á þessar early days, honeymoon days.
Let's head on over to Lily and Josh. Josh flies out to China, and it definitely looks like he is not flying economy, so fancy. I wonder if Lily paid for the ticket.
Cannot wait to be reunited with Lily. I'm gonna be in a whole new country without the things I enjoy. So I'm just curious to see how I adapt to it.
I also think it's weird that the two of them met on a language learning app. He wanted to learn Mandarin and she wanted to learn English. And when they met each other and started dating, you would think that that would encourage them to maintain the progress of learning each other's language. But that is when they decided to just drop it. That seems really weird to me. You would think that Josh would pick it back up when he decided to move to China forever. Josh lands in China, he gets in a taxi, and it's about a 3-hour drive from the airport to get to Lily's place. And Lily did want to pick him up, but he told her to stay at home because he wanted to show her that he could fend for himself, which I thought was really thoughtful of him to do.
I wanted to show her I can do this myself so she doesn't always have to worry about me. I'm not stressed out. As soon as I arrived here, I felt at peace.
Lily says Josh is always telling her that he has no money, he's broke, so she didn't want to stress him out by letting him know just how much the renovations cost for the house.
装修目前为止，我统计出来已经有400万人民币了，因为我把信用卡刷爆了。
As an FYI, the renovations cost over $560,000 US. And I absolutely hate that my first thought was, that's it? But I also want to point out that while Lily may not be telling him the exact dollar amount, she is telling him that the renovations are expensive and that she's draining her bank account to get them done. Which to me, that is the same thing. Like, that will give Josh the same level of stress. Josh uses his language translation app to ask the taxi driver a bunch of personal questions, which, if I were that taxi driver, I would pay him to leave me alone. I do not like to talk to strangers.
Is it common for men not to work while the wife provides the income?
在中国绝对要工作，怎么不工作吃什么？
And then he asks, what advice would you give a foreigner moving to China?
在中国如果常住的，
Find a job and don't rely on my wife.
Let's head on over to Statler and Dempsey. Statler tells us she suffers from a lot of road rage, which is great considering that her home is about to be a car that she will have to drive 24/7.
You idiot. That's why your car's all up, because you have bad karma.
She tells us that she has been growing more and more anxious because she's about to be the sole breadwinner in the relationship because Dempsey's unable to do her work remotely, so she had to quit her job.
I've taken out a $20,000 loan to pay for my part of the camper van. I'm definitely feeling a lot more stressed out than she is, financially speaking.
Statler is heading out with the intention of selling her car. She has this tender moment where she breaks up with her car.
It literally is not you. It's me, just going in a different direction.
But then she actually ends up deciding not to sell her car because she does want something to fall back on just in case Dempsey turns out to be a bad idea.
My biggest fear is that Dempsey and I will break up immediately. And then I'll be on the other side of the world with a ton of debt and nothing to fall back on.
Unfortunately, we all know that Dempsey turns out to be no bueno. Statler is packing her life into 2 suitcases because that is all that will fit inside that camper. What is crazy to me is that she almost lost her mind when she was living in that caravan with Dempsey, and the camper van is gonna be like a quarter of that size.
There's like less space than I'm realizing. I want to take a shower, but I can't just like hop into the shower. It doesn't have hot water. Yikes. Might be in over my head here.
Dempsey texts her and says that they actually can't afford the camper van because Statler did not end up selling her car.
It's making me feel even more overwhelmed, and I am having second thoughts. Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe this shouldn't happen.
I'm so sorry. Dempsey quit her job. Statler, I'm assuming, did not renew her lease. And she also got rid of everything she owns that didn't fit into 2 suitcases. And you guys didn't even secure the camper van? That seems like a very poorly planned, terrible idea. I would absolutely not make any moves until I knew that that camper van 100% was purchased and registered to us. The two argue about the miscommunication with selling her car. Statler says that she was not going to sell the car, she was just gonna see how much she would get and potentially use it as an option. And Dempsey took it as she was definitely selling the car, and so that money was gonna be a 100% for sure thing.
I didn't know that we were depending on that money.
That's not true. Like, we spoke about that time and time again.
At the end of the day, they are $6,000 short of paying for the camper van, and Statler is like, okay, well, I will try to come up with that money somehow, and Dempsey's looking at her being like, yeah, you better come up with that money. It's all on you. Lastly, let's head on to Shekinah and Sarpur. Shekinah is pretty pissed right now because Sarpur's place looks like he was not expecting her arrival.
I've just arrived back in Istanbul and it feels disappointing. Oh my God, babe. This place is wrecked.
Things have not been cleaned, things have not been planned, set up, the bottles are still there, and Shekinah ends up crying.
Are you doing this because of that bottles?
I just feel like I came back and nothing's changed. It's the same. I better not see that book of yours.
Sarpur tries to say that the bottles remind him of his adventures to these locations and not about women, but Shekinah's like, I'm gonna call bullshit, they absolutely remind you of women.
Do you want me to show the book to you?
Don't you dare bring that in front of me.
Why?
Because that's so disrespectful.
Babe,
It
to
is
show
so
you it's
disrespectful.
nothing important.
Sarpur goes on to say that his book should not bother her because it doesn't mean anything. So Shekinah brings out her 100 and whatever pages of a love letter and throws it at him, and Sarpur is like, whoa, why do you have this? Why would you keep this? And Shekinah is like, pot, meet, kettle.
And then he also has a double standard where he can have these things and he can talk about his past so much, but I can't talk about mine.
And that, my Panda Pals, is literally all that happened in this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining, and a huge shout out to all of my channel members. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, thanks for not letting me ride this train wreck alone. Bye!